Hi, I'm Candice Quinn, founder of contracthack, where I help lawyers and law students learn the skills that law school did not teach them. Here's the honest truth. My career was anything but what I expected it to be. It was scrappy. It did not work out how I thought it would be, and I want to tell you the whole truth about it, because if I can hack my way here, so can you. And that's why I started contracthack, because I want to help lawyers and law students figure out how to build a career that they love and enjoy, even if it doesn't look like the traditional path or the one they thought that they could take. I started out with a degree in political science, not really sure what I would do, and it turns out there wasn't really much I could do except go to law school or be a politician. So law school it was. But before that, I did not go straight from undergrad to law school. I actually stopped and started working. I was a paralegal at a bankruptcy law firm, and I worked there for several years before I started law school. I went to law school in the evening, and I worked full-time during the day, still at that same firm as a paralegal. So for 4 years, I was working full-time during the day and going to law school at night and studying like every other time that I had available. So a life, I didn't have a life, but I was going to law school, so I was excited. I worked my way onto law review. I was in the top 10% of my class. I was hitting all of the marks to be able to have a successful law career when I was done with law school. And then OCI happened and I got tons of interviews. I was like, this is a no-brainer. Like, I'm going to big law. And then what happened? I'm awkward. I didn't get those interviews right. I was very awkward and I didn't get them. So I had to adjust. And, it turns out that might be a good thing because I graduated law school in 2010. And in case you don't remember, that was a really bad year for the legal field and lawyers in general. And summer associates were getting offers rescinded left and right. Even layoffs were happening at a lot of the big firms. So I was probably spared from that. But what I wasn't spared from was being able to actually get a job. So without getting big law, I had to try and find another way to either backdoor into big law or find a way to land at a firm and start a career. And my current firm, while it could have been a viable option, was not hiring, again, because the legal field was really bad at that time. So I ended up getting a federal clerkship with a bankruptcy judge and moving states to do that, which meant moving my family, dragging my husband out of his career, setting his career back, yada, 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 trying to figure it out. So while I'm at the clerkship, I'm also still simultaneously searching for a job in that state or any state, really wherever. I would go anywhere. And when the clerkship was over, I ended up going back to my home state and working for a regional law firm. And I thought, this is where I made it. This is where I got exactly what I wanted. But I was wrong. This firm was just the next wall I hit. I didn't get a lot of mentorship here. I worked for 3 male partners who were egocentrical and, quite frankly, probably narcissists. They didn't want to train me. They didn't want to share work with me. And they really didn't seem to enjoy having an associate that didn't have any idea how to do any real legal work. Unlike other law firms, there wasn't a lot of associates at this firm, so I didn't have a lot of companionship or camaraderie, and it was really me, a whole bunch of partners, and a whole bunch of staff, which was a really odd position to be in, and led to a lot of awkward moments and just regrets on my side. After a few years there, I figured I'd learned as much as I possibly could at this place, given the lack of training and mentorship, and I decided to leave. And honestly, that was probably a good choice. I was probably headed on the path to being laid off because my billable hours were just dismal. The partners did not give me much work, and I spent most of my time, many months there, billing less than 30 hours a month, which, if you know anything, you know that's a death sentence. So I started my own firm, and I represented consumers in bankruptcy, which was a really rewarding and great experience. I really enjoyed it, but bankruptcy also wasn't a great growth area. And there was a lot of reasons for that, but it was really hard to find clients, especially in the geographic location I was in, that actually needed to file bankruptcy. And I was just not willing to take people's money when they didn't need to file bankruptcy because they didn't have any collectible assets that they, needed to protect. So eventually I shut down my firm without really knowing what was next. I started looking for alternative legal career jobs. I thought about going into the government. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I happened to stumble upon a posting for a paralegal at a tech firm in central Pennsylvania. I decided to apply, even though it was a paralegal position. I figured it might, I needed a paycheck, and I figured it might be a good opportunity. Well, I was really right. Ended up being one of the best steps I ever made. I was not only a paralegal in this tech company, but I was the first legal hire. So there was no processes or procedures for anything legal related. And there was no mentorship. There was no other attorney that I could bounce ideas off of with respect to this company. So I had to rely on my external network, my own friends, other connections I had to be able to get some kind of bespoke advice on different issues. I also had to do a lot of my own research. For example, I taught myself everything I know about privacy, and I really had to rely on myself. I was, in effect, still faking it till I made it. And while I started as a paralegal, I ended up, within just a few months, leveraging that into a counsel role at the same tech company. I had really established my value. I had really shown the company that they needed an actual legal counsel, not just a paralegal. It was really easy to justify that the company needed a true attorney. So I was back to being an attorney, awesome, but still had a lot to learn. This role turned out to be the best training ground for me. I learned so much from start to finish about running a legal department, establishing processes. I implemented a CLM. I also established a privacy program at the time when it was really necessary to do so. And it was a really great learning experience. I eventually built the department up and had several people reporting to me. But in staying with my scrappy nature and not being satisfied with where I completely was in my career yet, the Great Resignation happened. And I decided to take that opportunity to leverage the opportunities out there. And I moved on from this position to another in-house position and nearly doubled my salary. So it was a really great move for me. I got additional experience. I was at a different company, got to see different risk profiles, work with different executives. It was a really great experience for me, and I've continued to do that. I've continued to move around in-house every couple of years in order to learn new companies and have new strategies and new experiences. So along this path, I actually earned my MBA, and I've been able to specialize in commercial contracts, focusing both on the revenue side, the sales contracts, and also vendor and procurement contracts. So why am I telling you all this? Because my career was not handed to me. I had to work and grab for every little crumb that I got. For every step forward, it felt like I took 2 steps backwards. And honestly, even when I was still going forward, it still felt like I was moving backwards. And sometimes today, I still feel like I'm faking it till I make it. I mean, do we ever really feel like we've made it? I don't know. What does that feel like, right? So I decided to start contracthack because I want to help other people that were in the same position as me. I want them to know that there is a place for them and that they can design a path that works for them and brings them the success that they want, even if it wasn't exactly the success they pictured when they started on their path. I know what it's like to not have mentors, to feel like you're figuring it out as you go on your own, and worrying if you're doing okay, if you're gonna make it, where you'll end up. I know what that all feels like. I wanted to provide those resources that I created for myself. I wanted to provide them to other new attorneys and experienced attorneys that are in the same position that I was in. contracthack is everything that I wish I had back then. It's the tools, the tips, the advice, and the community that I did not have that I want to provide for others. So if you ever felt like you don't fit the traditional mold, or like you might be stalling in your career, check out contracthack. Schedule a strategic discovery call with me where we can talk one-on-one and figure out what your goals are and how you can get to them. If you ever felt like you don't fit the traditional mold, then stick around here because you're my people. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and leave me a comment about what you find to be the most unexpected part of your career thus far. Because your career doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be hacked a little bit. See you the next time, hackers. Bye.